Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Hummingbird Arcana Podcast. My name is Jo Hummingbird. I am an evolutionary astrologer and an Usui Reiki master, here to deep dive into the worlds of astrology, Reiki, mysticism, and so much more with you. And I am so excited to be joining you for the very first episode of this. This is a space where I want to make it as safe as possible to dive into the mystical side of astrology and Reiki and occult and all the different studies in which I have had the privilege and honor and joy of being on the path of discovering over the last 12 and a half years of my life. And that is a gift in and of itself to even be able to say, because it's more than half of my lifespan that I've been alive, that I've been able to be a part of this journey for myself and for other people. And I am just so grateful to be offering any insight or any experiences or information that I can share with you in this way, because this is entirely free. This is entirely something that I want to give my time and my energy and my effort to, so that way you can not only get to know me and what I do with my business, because I'm not here to just take your money and run from you. I'm not here to give you information behind a paywall as a spiritual hippie guru and digital nomad. I'm not here to lie to you, to sell you some bullshit. I'm here to offer you empowerment through spiritual tools and insight and wisdom that not only our benevolent ancestors left behind for us to discover thousands of years later, but also that we can utilize in more modern ways to help shift the modern paradigm, our thinking, our lifestyles, our ability to manifest 111 on the clock in real time as I say that. So I'm so grateful to be sitting here with you. A little bit about what you can expect to see on this podcast. Like I mentioned, astrology, Reiki, mysticism, more. I'm going to be covering a wide array of topics, but I will be mostly focusing in on astrology and Reiki, as those are my specialties. I have been reading astrology charts for 8 years, and I have been offering that professionally to people for just over 4 years now, and it has been an absolute joy to be able to do so, and it has made so much more sense out of the spiritual journey for me than damn near anything else has in my experience. But that's just my perspective, that's my experience, it's my journey. It doesn't mean that it is going to be that way for you, but if you happen to resonate with anything that I am going to share along this journey with you, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, follow me on whatever platform, podcast streaming platform you're watching it or listening to this on. If it's, sadly Spotify, you can see the video probably, but I'm not the biggest fan of Spotify because of what they're choosing to do legislatively right now, and that's a different conversation for a different day. But if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or a SoundCloud or whatever streaming service you're listening on, thank you for tuning in, and I hope that you have followed along for this journey. And as far as Reiki goes, I am a 3 times certified Usui Reiki master, and I am 6 generations down from Master Usui, who is the man who brought Reiki into the world from the modern perspective in the late 1800s. And I am not saying that in a boastful way. I'm saying that from just an informational standpoint, sharing way, because there's a lot of people running around hosting Reiki classes that just got like some random certificate online from an Instagram ad they saw, or like some Google ad or Facebook bullshit they saw, or a reel on TikTok. And I'm not saying that to like discredit literally anybody's practice of Reiki. That is not my intention here, so do not convolute that, please. My purpose in saying that is there's not really a direct connection to a lineage in which these teachings come from, and the purpose of being a Reiki master is not only to offer Reiki and make money off of it, it is to extend the lifeline of the teachings in which were brought for healing into this world, to help other people, to be of service to the collective, to be of service to your community, to be of service as a healer. It is not about putting a price tag behind a class or a session so you can put your hands on somebody and say some woohoo moohoo shit and then get them to believe in some pseudoscience. It is about electromagnetic frequency. It is about the specific symbols in which this lineage was bringing into this world to anchor this frequency in. And this was believed to be the same healing modality that all of the ancient master healers, including Jesus Christ Yeshua and Bodhisattva Buddha, this is the healing modality that is believed to have been used by those two beings on this earth when they were alive and walking, healing people. There are so many stories about these two people and what their miracles could offer people. And they, we trace it back to Reiki modernly. And if you have studied Reiki and the history and herstory of Reiki, you will know that it was started by a man, Dr. Mikao Usui, and he brought this into the world, and he opened the Reiki clinic in Tokyo with Dr. Hujiro Hayashi, and it is a very powerful healing modality that then, by the power of a woman, got spread into the rest of the world because the men wanted to gatekeep it. So don't be like the men that started the Reiki in the world and gatekeep shit for the sake of money. And I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to offer Reiki and its wisdom to you guys in entirety in the ways that I can. And of course, there will be a financial exchange for sessions and classes, but it is not going to be something that is out of pocket in the sense of it being ridiculously pricey or costly for you. It is not going to be something that puts you out thousands of dollars like some of these crazy digital nomad people want to charge you for a Reiki retreat and shit, and just to give you one certification and not really teach you anything. So that's not me advertising myself here either. That is just me expressing my sentiment behind the Reiki that I practice. I practice specifically Usui Reiki, not just Holy Fire Karuna Reiki or some other form of Reiki that somebody else took from the original system of Reiki and made into their own and started charging double, triple, quadruple the price for. And I'm not saying that I'm the most pure Reiki teacher in the world. I'm definitely, I'm 6 generations down teacher lineage-wise from Dr. Mikao Usui, Master Usui. So it is not my intention to boast about my lineage. It is my intention to utilize the teachings of my lineage in order to not only extend the lifeline of those teachings, but to give back to the lineage in which they came from as well. So my mission is to teach other people about Reiki in the right way, to honor the people who came before me to do the same, and that did that in efforts for me to be able to do so, and for the people after me to do so as well. So this is kind of my realm of expertise, astrology and Reiki, but I am a professional tarot reader as well. I don't offer that on my website. I used to do it a lot of card readings for people, but I did find that got to be super draining, and that it is something I want to keep more sacred and private. Not because I don't believe in my capabilities, it's just because it is draining to tap into so many people's energies and read cards for them all the time whenever you're battling with their egos. So, and a lot of times people are using cards so that way the message can get through their ego without there being some sort of block or resistance to verbal communication. They want something tangible to blame the energy on so their ego doesn't have to, dislike the person and what they say. They can blame it on the cards. They can blame it on spirit. They can blame it on something else instead of somebody else's perception. So that is kind of what you can expect to see from me as far as this podcast goes. But as far as my story goes, I don't want to waste a whole lot of time talking about myself and my practice and my background, but I do want to give you a little bit of my story so you know who I am and you know what I'm here for and the right reasons as to why I'm here, not just me boasting about my credentials or what I can do. So I started my spiritual journey, like I mentioned, 12 and a half years ago, and this was when I was, in fact, 12 years old. I remember being in church. Growing up, I was raised Southern Baptist Christian, which is horrible from a spiritual standpoint, not from, I'm not going to sit here and criticize people's beliefs, but I am going to criticize religion for being a tool of mass hysterical control and oppression and so many other horrific things that we don't have the time to get into today. But basically I had all that religious trauma and programming going up, and God didn't make sense to me because the version of God that I knew from connecting with nature and having my own relationship to God was different than the God that the church was telling me to believe in and worship and pray to and kind of metaphorically suck the dick of. So I remember I started watching like Long Island Medium on TLC because it was the only form of non-Christian spirituality that my family would let me engage with because it was on their favorite TV network. So of course it was justifiable by that point. For lack of a better term, I know that I'm Caucasian here, but that's very white people shit to do. Anyways, I started watching that and I started offering, medium readings to my best friend, not because I was like, let me charge for this, because I was literally 12. I was just like, can I do this? Let me try. Because prior to all of my religious upbringing trauma, as like the earliest I can remember as a child and like an infant or like a toddler, I would be waking up in the middle of the night from what my parents would say were nightmares, but I literally would be seeing ghosts and entities and like dancing spirits around my bed at night that would terrorize me. And it was not about like me being schizophrenic as a child and just talking to them. It was only at night when my subconscious would be susceptible and my ego wouldn't have any distractions from family denying my experience, that these forces would be interacting with me, or these entities, these spirits, these ghosts in some cases. And I was horrified of it, and I didn't know what to do with it. And my family just kept telling me that I was having a nightmare and I needed to go back to sleep and shut up. And, lack of a better term, that sounds very harsh, but over time, that's what it began to be, because I wouldn't stop talking about it at some point. And leading up into my church experience as a child, I would, still have some of these from time to time. And my dad was an alcoholic, a very severe alcoholic, and I would go tell him about the experience, and he would just tell me that I was imagining things and I needed to grow up. And he would remember saying that because he was drunk. And then my mom, being just a stay-at-home mom, hard worker, raising 3 kids plus a 4th stepkid in the mix of a total of 4 children to be raising, it was not easy for her to entertain that whenever she was already working on entertaining us in other ways and feeding us and taking care of us and doing all the chores and taking us places and all the things. So I'm not exactly blaming my family for discrediting my experiences, but I'm also not going to let it slide, because it did damage me. And I had to be the one from age 12 to pick up that mess continually, and I still do. And my family refuses to. So that's besides the point. At that point at 12, again, I started watching Long Island Medium, TLC, the things they let me watch. And to my best friend, I started offering mediumship readings to see if I could do this, because I remembered seeing dead people and ghosts and entities and spirits as nightmares growing up. And I was connecting the dots at age 12, and I was like, wait a minute. Maybe these spirits weren't trying to terrorize me. Maybe they're trying to get my attention because everybody else around me was calling me crazy. Chills all over my body in this moment. Holy shit. Literally legs, arms, neck, back. I feel, and they're not going away. They're sitting here. I wish you could see the goosebumps on me right now. Anyways, my family would deny this to me, but then I was like, wait a minute. Maybe my family's the crazy ones. Maybe this woman on TV who has a relationship to God, but still has this gift, maybe she's onto something, and maybe I could do it too. And so I offered my first mediumship reading to my best friend, and I immediately channeled somebody I had no idea if I was even just pulling shit out of my ass or if it was real. And it was a past relative of my best friend. And I got the details right, confirmed by her grandmother who was present for it. And I had never heard anything about this man. I had never heard anything about his past. I had never heard any story about him at all. But he came through because he had something to say to my best friend and to her grandmother, and to convey to the rest of the family at the time, to who would listen. So it blew my mind as a child. I was like, what the fuck? Am I crazy? Am I making this up? Do I need to go back to church? Like, what? And at that point, I kind of just took a step back from my analysis and my fear from it. And I was like, you know what? If this worked for somebody that I know and love, and everybody else around me who claims to love me denies this about me, then maybe that isn't unconditional love. And maybe there's something else out here that is, and I can find it. And, that is also kind of rooted in the lack of acceptance trauma, religious trauma as well. So I started discovering meditation and the chakra system and psychic gifts and powers, like such as telekinesis or telepathy or clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience, clairalience, all the different things. I really took a deep dive into everything, and it made my world crumble that I knew before, and it rebuilt something else for me. And from that point on, I was devoting the rest of my life to understanding my spirit, understanding spirit in general, helping other people understand theirs. And I didn't do as many mediumship style readings from that point forward because it got to be super overwhelming as a young kid, having all of these spirits of dead people with their trauma and their stories and their human level attachments from a 4D standpoint beyond an ability to ascend to 5D or beyond, because they still have these earthly attachments to maybe people that are still alive or places that are still here. It was super, super dense for me at the time, especially with everything that I was going through between having a broken family of divorce and a blended family with remarriage on my dad's side on and off again, and the alcoholism and the physical, emotional, psychological abuse that my brothers were putting me through on my mom's side, and the bullying I was facing at school, and on top of that being a gay kid who was just trying not to deny himself of himself before having to come to terms with that, to then eventually have other people come to terms with that, let alone himself. So I was dealing with so much that I kind of put the mediumship aside, and I discovered angels and the more metaphysical side of that rather than just the religious side of it, and the way that the church had convoluted the image of angels into just something that only God controls, and you just have to pray to God and like don't pray to the angels because they're just God's messengers, which to an extent, but it gets really messy because it's the church and it's religion and it's trying to control your perspective versus allowing you an authentic experience, which I do agree that angels are messengers of the whatever omnipotent force of God, the universal force of unconditional love. Yes, I do believe that angels are an extension of that. I just think that they are also very different in and of themselves. So I digress. I started learning about them, and that's when I discovered angel oracle cards. And that's when I also, after that, discovered tarot cards. And I was like, oh, I could do this. And so I bought my first angel oracle card deck, and I bought my first tarot card deck, and I started giving readings similar to the mediumship in which I offered my best friend years before. I gave my first card reading to her as well. And again, it was accurate without me even having to know what the meanings on the cards were. I was just intuitively channeling, pulling shit out of my ass, for like the lack of a better term. And little did I know, that's not what I was doing at all. I was tapping in, I was in flow, I was using my intuition, I was connecting to spirit, and there was something real there. And that's when I stopped keeping it private, and I took it to high school, and I started being open about it, and I started giving everybody readings. I was literally known in high school as the tarot card kid. Like, you need a reading? Go to that guy. You need a reading? Go talk to the gay kid with the ponytail in band. He's the one that reads cards, and he's scary accurate. I predicted my band director's pregnancy and the gender of his baby. Like, that really blew my mind too, because years of accuracy without me having to try, and that is not a boastful thing, that was literally just me blowing my mind and other people being like, what the fuck, and me being also like, what the fuck. It was scary, but also so exciting, and that's how I knew it was right and real and visceral and a part of my mission as a soul. So flash forward to me graduating high school. I went to college for about 5 minutes, meaning 6 weeks, and while I was there, I graduated high school during COVID, so my graduation in my senior year was kind of shot to shit at the end. And I remember kind of falling off a little bit of the spiritual path. Not that I was not spiritual or not believing in anything or not practicing anything. I just didn't do it often, and I was very unhappy because of the state of the world and the lockdown and not being able to see my friends as often, not having the high school experience that I wanted to end off my high school chapter with, and not being able to start college in the way that I wanted to, in the same way that other people I know in my life had. And it was super disappointing. But when I got to college, I remember out of nowhere, after 6 weeks, I got this instant download. It was like, go home, drop out of this. You are not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be pursuing your spirituality as your lifeline. Go back to your old job from high school, save up money, and take this shit seriously. So I did. And from December of 2020 onward, I was professionally offering my business to people. Not for a whole lot of profit in the beginning, of course, and not for $1 million of profit now either. But it was my passion nonetheless, and still is. And I remember offering readings and sessions for people and them having a positive experience or gaining something out of it, or something in their life changed as a result of what I had to share from spirit. And it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with them willing to listen to their higher selves in spirit, and me just being a conduit and a vessel for it. And that led to me manifesting working at a metaphysical shop for the first time. And it was one that I had shopped at for a few years before, but I just had no idea they were looking for people or wanted anything to do with me. I was just a customer, and I had no idea that they had enough money to support multiple employees other than the 2 people that I had seen working there. And lo and behold, they were, and they hired me instantaneously. And it was a beautiful experience for a year. Now, it was filled with a lot of drama, because if you work at a metaphysical shop, you know that a lot of the products, at least in the United States metaphysical shops, they are bought with blood money, or bought off like Amazon, or like a Chinese vendor, or something where it wasn't ethically made or sourced. And I learned that the really hard way. I was very disappointed and very upset about it. And so I left that experience after building up enough of my clientele for a year to be able to support myself. And I started working at different events, and I made my first $1,000 at an event that I got to make back my table and then some. And I built a pretty stable clientele until the economy crashed in my country in 2022 from oil being gouged by Russia invading Ukraine, and the continuation of what was even worsely happening in the Middle East, let alone in Congo and Sudan. So I remember just it being a halting moment and having to really reconsider what I was doing. And I had some crazy opportunities to travel in order to experience different forms of my business. And I discovered integrating a lot different forms of astrology into my business and into my personal life. And I just have watched this journey unfold and have so many synchronicities and divine alignments and quote-unquote chance encounters that aren't chance at all. They're divinely placed, and I can trace it all back to different forms of astrology, of course, but really what I can trace it back to is me following my intuition and my guidance. And in this day and age of my life, my guidance is to offer what I've been through, my experiences, my wisdom, my insight, information, tools, resources, guidance, all of it, to those who are willing to listen, to those who are called to hear what I have to say and take it in for themselves. It has nothing to do with me, the person, the avatar, Jo Hummingbird talking to you, me. It has everything to do with spirit, utilizing my human avatar and its experiences as the vessel to reflect back to you in this moment when you are in resonance with it, what you already know at the core of your being to be true, which is that you are magical, you are spiritual, you are a spirit in a human body, having a human experience, navigating it spiritually. You have power, you have divinity, you have cosmic sovereignty, you have information and wisdom within you that has been stored in your DNA and in your soul's blueprint that is waiting to be unlocked whenever you choose to turn the key. So that is why I am here, is to utilize my offerings to help you to do so. It is my mission in this lifetime to utilize every one of the tools I have in my arsenal to help people awaken to their sovereign cosmic divinity, because it has helped me awaken to mine, regardless of my financial status, whether I was the best-selling item at a metaphysical shop for a month straight, or whether I was scraping by and robbing Peter to pay Paul. It doesn't matter. It is about the healing. It is about the empowerment. It is about the wisdom. It is about remembering who we truly are and why we are here, and being a part of the journey to begin with as a soul. So this is who I am. This is Hummingbird Arcana, and I am so grateful that you are here on this journey with me. I want to take the time now to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to this intro episode and to join me on this journey of astrology, Reiki, mysticism, and so much more. I hope that you will stick around with me. If you are watching this on YouTube, then subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications so you're notified of every episode that comes out. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or SoundCloud, follow me and stay up to date on all the episodes that I release. I will be having so many more coming, and I am so excited to be awakening you to your cosmic divinity. Many blessings and take care. I will see you in the next one.